They will say, really, you want to do cloud? Okay, how would it work? And then everything, that conversation happened from that point onward, is that I could save you some money, I could do it better, I could do it faster, and things like that. So us IT professionals do not think about that, what is the real expense of adopting some of these technologies, right? And when you look at the typical organization or typical delivery model, what you see over here is that you have the traditional IT teams. Those are your operating system people, secret management people, database engineering people, so on and so forth. In a typical IT organization, our company is like a mid-sized company where I work, $4 billion revenue. But all of these teams exist in some way, shape, or form. Either it is like a top company or a small company, right? So you have to look at it that you're dealing with when you're going to a cloud. What are you dealing with? What is the cost that's going to get involved in order to train them, in order to get their buy-in and all that? And then when you look at it from, again, any level perspective, you got the multiple development teams that are working on multiple products within multiple divisions, right? How are they interacting with each other? And then of course you got the business oversight, that is the one who have the money, right? How do you tell your business people that, what is the real cost of the cloud, and then what is the real success model going to look like, right? And then on the right hand side, I try to portray some of the other stakeholders that also comes into the picture. So you're not talking about replacing 10 machines that are running in your data center and moving them to something like a EC2 on AWS, or running an ECS cluster, which is the container-based technology. You're talking about how do you do governance, how do you do your project office, how do you do your service delivery, how do you do your architecture. And all of these people in a typical environment are the stakeholders. So there are multiple cloud adoption frameworks that are out there, right? Which mainly touches upon, the two sides of the things, as I would like to call them. One is your business perspective, and the other one is more of a technology perspective. And when I talk about that, I usually fall on the right-hand side, but I have a very good partnership on the left-hand side also. And looking at the very high level, what you see over here is that you have the business side of the things, then you have people, which is your HR. So, like the brother was talking about in the initial conversation, that where do you lie? Do you lie under the latest technologies which you could deliver? In this case, it is cloud, right? Or do you lie in the bottom? And if you are at the bottom, how do you retrain your resources that you have today, the $200,000 versus $75,000 example that brother was giving, right? So you have to have the HR as part of that process, right? When you're sitting down at the table with the executives, when you're talking to them, you have to tell them, what do you do with your existing force, right? Or what do you do with your new skill developer, like hire them somebody on a 65 to 75K scale. And then you have the governance side of the things, and how things are running, right? So this is one side of the thing, and the part that I really love and enjoy is the right-hand side of the things, which is your platform perspective, your operations, your security, right? And all those things, as we are talking about them, right? You being a developer, or you being a manager or a VP of a particular application, and you say, I would like to go to cloud. Before that, you have to embrace these things, that where is your organization maturity level is, how can it get there, and how do you help them get there, right? From cloud program fundamental and governance, you have to look at that. What is your path of least business disruption, right? So you have to look at it from the perspective that, again, it's not something that you could say, hey, I could move my identity management from, let's say, CA-based solution to Cognito, right? It's very easy to do, but how would all these things work? Does your organization have something along the line that says it is business case driven? Do you have a cloud factory? Did you establish a principle that says it is cloud first? What are your well-defined product level cloud strategies? How do you see that? How do you or your application that you're managing fit into any of these silos, right? Do you have a new project coming up? What is the delivery date? Is your IT going to be able to support it or not? Instead of just saying, hey, I know this new technology and let me put it into work, right? And then something along the line over here that what is your delivery model going to look like, or how your company is supporting it, and it could exist in different form in different places. But things like you could have something along the lines where you are aligned with your executive sponsors and your business people, right? So that starts with something like the execution is where development teams are. What is your strategy and vision? What is your feedback loop? How do you go from project to product management to the PO, PMO, and cloud champions? Do they meet bi-weekly? Do they meet weekly? How is your adoption of those technologies in the cloud? Because there are, like, at this point in AWS alone, you have 1,000 plus services and 200 unique products, right? So today, if I even talk about the databases, as we had some data discussion earlier, let's say I want to go to Aurora DB in AWS, right? Does your DBA have any knowledge or a prior knowledge on Aurora DB, right? Because at the end of the day, in any organization, what they would say, first thing, developers are not allowed to touch anything above development, right? So you have your staging environments, you have your QA environments, you have your production environment. What is your capability lie ahead, right? So things like those requires planning, things like those requires discussion, things like these require an executive's buy-in or the champion's buy-in, and they will enable you to go where you need to go. So the natural question is that, okay, if that is the case, then what is the right way of doing it, right? So right way of doing it is, there is a concept, for example, in both Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework and AWS Cloud Adoption Framework, typically referred to as AWS CAF. If you would go search it, you will find it. And in Cloud Adoption Framework, what they recommend is, they call it a tiger teams. There's a concept called tiger teams. And in that concept, kind of fall under cloud engineering, where you have your infrastructure, operations, security, and the migration team kind of coming together, right? They're kind of coming together and making sure that what you're trying to deliver will get delivered. So you're not opening up a ticket, right? So let's say you need to bring up something in the cloud. It shouldn't be a ticket that you open up and it goes somewhere. This should be a virtual team that is sitting together, kind of a concept of a DevOps agile teams where everything is working together. But more of that in industry term in these days is like tiger teams, right? And then it has including everything like a threat and vulnerability model, secrets and key management. Because remember, everything in cloud preferably should be infrastructure as a code. You don't want people to go in and installing operating system and then bringing up the machines and things like that. Everything should be one go. So when we talk about infrastructure as a code, we talk about all of these teams writing code. So there is no more distinction between this is a database engineer, this is a network engineer, this is this guy. Everything is a code which kind of work in the harmony, which then require the whole team to be developers or developer engineers, whatever you want to call them. But no specific role, they're all working together with their specialty to deliver the code. And then you have the, just like a PMO, like a project management office, you have a cloud business office, which is making sure that, enterprise architecture is being followed, your governance is being done, your onboarding is being done, you are doing the finance. Finance is again an interesting area. We could have more discussion on that where we do a Q&A. But things like a very simple thing, CapEx versus OpEx, right? What does it mean is that traditional model is that you buy the hardware, let's say you spend $4 million on the hardware, and your rule is that we're gonna amortize it over 4 years, right? So it's gonna be $1 million expense every year that will hit my book, right? But when you go to the cloud model is an OpEx, right? What OpEx means is that it's still $4 million or maybe a little less because you're going to cloud, but the way it's going to hit your books will be very, very different, right? In first year, because you're ramping up, you're doing development and all that, it may be only like $250,000, but next year full load is gonna be $1 million. So how do you maintain, especially when a company is a public listed company, every dollar gets counted and then you get your budgets and allocations and things like that. So you have to work very tightly with your finance people to say how these things need to happen, right? And lastly, things like onboarding and education of the cloud, financial management and accounting, your community culture and advocacy, and enterprise governance and compliance. So this is something that I advocate, I run, I try, working between our multiple divisions and trying to make it successful for the last 3 years. This is my speed delivery. So you're gonna get some of these references, and I would love to talk to each one of you. These references are there. I would highly recommend going through the cloud adoption framework, both from Microsoft and AWS. One of the things that is interesting is what we call the Devops Topologies, if you will. There is a whole website dedicated for Devops Topologies, and DevOps, if you will, is the main ingredient for the cloud program to be successful. And there are patterns, and then there are anti-patterns of DevOps that you should look at and see how it fits into your company. With that, thank you for your time. How did I do? How many?
Thank you, Brother Imran. As Brother Imran said, actually the presentations are not everything. Like we should connect each other, maybe through LinkedIn, and we'll have at least some time to network with each other. So next I'll call Brother Salim Sufi. He will teach us how to do professional development and climb up the ladder. Brother Salim is CFO of the Mecca CFO Academy, and I don't have to introduce, actually many of you know, like he's known worldwide for his speeches and training programs.
My basic introduction is that I'm not a technical guy, I'm not an IT person. So I believe this is the gathering of the IT professionals. Yes.
Yeah. So, how many minutes?
So instead of asking how many IT guys, let me ask you a different question. Who is not from IT in this group? Okay, that gives me perspective. Okay, good. So my background is finance actually. I spent my life as a finance professional and later in my career as CFO. My last job was in New York working as a CFO for a global company. And I left them 3 years ago to do something on my own. So today I run my own consulting, coaching, training, global consultancy, and it's my own business. I work from home. So that's the advantage of technology. Let me just open the file.
If you can move there actually, because of the microphone is going to talk.
So how many of you have a chance to look at the recent report issued by the World Economic Forum on the future of jobs? Anybody? There were two reports. First report, okay, at least one person. So first report was issued in 2016 that really created a quite noticeable move in the market, and that was done with some research, but then they took it more seriously based on the level of interest and attention they got from the industry people, and they spent more time on the research and investigation, and they issued this recent report, which was I think on 18th September, Future of Jobs. My advice, if you have a chance, go when you have some time and download it. It's freely available, and just Future of Jobs 2018, and it's very interesting. It's 147 pages, by the way, but you don't have to go through the entire report. There are a lot of charts and graphs which will really give you the flavor of that report. What I have done in this presentation,
which one is yours? Can I just select that?
I just opened it.
Oh, sorry. That was.
PowerPoint.